Hey everyone. This was one of those conversations where there was just a lot to cover. And I knew that as soon as I was reading my guest bio in the very beginning of the interview. So today I sat down with Nahum Vizakis and we really spent a lot of time going into his story, his background, trauma, the nervous system, fear, healing, and the path that led him to the work that he's doing now. And as you'll hear, we touch on this idea of spiritual bodybuilding, but we don't actually get to fully unpack what that means, especially in the context of his book, The Biohacker's Guide to Spiritual Bodybuilding. So he agreed to come back for a follow-up episode where we will focus more directly on that. We would love to hear any questions that you might have that we can bring into that conversation. So as you're listening to this episode, just notice what stands out to you, what you're curious about, and what you might want more clarity on. And if you're listening in real time, this episode is being released on Monday, April 20th, 2026. Shoot me an email at thespirituallycurioustherapist@gmail.com with your questions or anything that you would like for us to follow up on when we meet again next month. And we'll include those questions in the next episode. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Spiritually Curious Therapist, where science, spirit, and the self come together in the art of healing. I'm Jody Silverman, psychotherapist, Reiki master, and fellow seeker. Here we explore how presence, compassion, and nervous system wisdom helps us reconnect with the heart, the body, and the soul. Hello, and welcome back to the Spiritually Curious Therapist. Today we have a very special guest, Nahum Vizakis. Welcome, Nahum.
Hello, Jody. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
I am so happy to have you here. Nahum and I were talking just before we hit record, and I was saying we might have to have a part 2 and part 3 because there's lots of questions here. So let me say a little bit about Nahum, and then we can jump right into your story. So Nahum is an athlete, combat veteran, fascial stretch therapist, astrologer, entrepreneur, and master healer whose life embodies the fusion of strength and spirit. A former U.S. Army explosive ordnance disposal operator, Nahum's first spiritual awakening came through his 2010 deployment in Baghdad, Iraq, a moment that shattered his old identity and sent him on a path of profound transformation. After leaving the military, he immersed himself in the study of healing and human potential, training with shamans, biohackers, and spiritual mentors around the world. As a competitive bodybuilder, he has competed in 13 NPC events. What are NPC events?
Uh, the National Physique Committee, it's like the WWE.
Yep,
It's just a federation.
perfect. Okay, great. Earning 3 overall and 7 first place titles, transforming his body into both an instrument of discipline and a temple of spiritual expression. Today, Nahum bridges ancient wisdom and modern science as an entheogenic healer and coach. His intuitive, customized therapies combine advanced biohacking modalities with sacred plant medicine and emotional alchemy, helping others heal from within and unlock their fullest potential. In the Biohacker's Guide to Spiritual Bodybuilding, he invites readers into a new era of strength, where lifting iron becomes both meditation and medicine. This groundbreaking guide blends the precision of peptides, hormones, and recovery science with the inner work of presence, emotional mastery, and spiritual alignment. In The Indigo Flame, Nahum shares his own raw, soul-bare journey from trauma and war to awakening and self-mastery. It is a memoir and a mirror, calling readers to remember who they are, break generational cycles, and rise as conscious leaders. Through his work, Nahum delivers a single message that echoes through both body and soul. True healing comes from within. There is no shortcut, only devotion, embodiment, and radical self-responsibility.
Amen.
Amen. So now you can see why I think we need a part 2 and a
Yeah,
part
for
3.
sure.
So Nahum, let's just start with your story. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are now.
Okay. So I was born in Massachusetts and I grew up there. When I was growing up, I still to this day don't remember anything from before I was 7 years old. But from what I remember after that, it was a very tumultuous situation in the home. Parents fighting all the time. Me and my stepfather didn't really have a good relationship. We'll just put it that way. So I started running away from home at about 10, 11 years old. And there was about a 3 year period where I would run away, get picked up by the cops, come home, get grounded, get, you know, traumatized again, then run away again, rinse and repeat. Until finally one day I decided that I was gonna figure out a way to not go home. I lived right on the border of Rhode Island, right? During February vacation, which was probably not the greatest season to run away, I packed up a bunch of clothes, and it was Friday going into the vacation. I went down the other side of town, and I had a friend down there that had a fort. And so I lived in that fort for about a week. And but then I had to leave, and things started getting hairy. I couldn't find food. I couldn't find a place to stay. So finally, I connected with a friend of mine during his paper route early in the morning. And I guess I looked pretty bad. I hadn't taken a shower in a few days. And he brought me to his house, and his parents sat me down. They were like, all right, we got to do something here. What do you want to do? So ultimately, I decided to go into foster care. When I went to foster care, I bounced around 17 different foster homes within 3 years. It was a pretty gnarly time. I got emancipated when I was 17 and a half, and I joined a gang. Not the greatest decision of my life. And right around that time, too, was also the first time I attempted suicide. And looking back, I think that attempt was more a cry for attention. But things were, I was hanging around with the wrong people, selling drugs, doing all the bad things. And I really just end up over and over again, just having no place to go, no place to stay until finally I was 19 and I was homeless again in the winter, and I burnt all my bridges and I had no choice. It was either I was gonna freeze to death outside on this park bench, or I was gonna call my mom and see if I could come home. So I called my mom. He said, "Yeah, you can come home." I went home for the first time and since I was 13, and within 3 months, I got my GED, got a job, bought a car. And after that 3 months, they were like, all right, you got yourself going, but you can't stay here. So it's either get a job, go to college, or go in the military. So ultimately, I ended up deciding to go in the military. So that was the first time that I ever felt confident about myself in something, because I found that I was really good, I was really athletic, and I never really challenged myself a whole lot with that before that. Things started to change when I joined the military, but initially I joined the National Guard. So I went to basic training, went to airborne school, came back, and I was trying to get deployed or go active duty, but we ended up getting deployed anyways with the National Guard about 6 months later. So I spent a year in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and came back. And when I came back, I still wanted to go active duty. I wanted to go special forces. I wanted to be just like GI Joe, right? I was just super drinking the Kool-Aid. I was just felt like I could excel more. Wasn't able to get to go active duty, so I ended up leaving Massachusetts and I moved out to Vegas. I had a friend that was from Massachusetts that lived out there, and he let me live there while I was getting going. But about 4 months after I got out there, I ended up getting deployed with that National Guard unit again out to NTC in Death Valley. Spent a year doing that. Then finally, I met someone, a retired Special Forces Sergeant Major, that saw my talent, and he ended up getting me in to go EOD. I went, tried out for EOD, passed, went to school. I did great in school. And about 6 months after I got out of EOD school, I got deployed to Iraq. Yay, finally getting everything that I want, right? But when I got over there, I started to really see now I'm in a leadership position and I'm in a very political job. And I started to see the game, like the good old boys club game. And I've never really fit into the good old boy club kind of thing. I rebelled and I made some enemies and I started getting into a lot of trouble. And ultimately, that is right around the time where my first big spiritual awakening happened. And I really went through like an existential identity crisis. I thought that I wanted to be this EOD tech. I thought I wanted to be G.I. Joe, Billy Badass. But I realized that was all ego driven. But by the time I was there, I was over there, I didn't have the opportunity to say, all right, I want out. This is my job. I got to do it. I struggled that year pretty bad. But a year later, when I got back, I got diagnosed with PTSD. And I got rocked a few times by explosions over there too. And I didn't really think anything of it, but apparently I have a very sensitive brain. So what I actually really came to understand was that I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive person, if you want to call it. And I never connected to the empathic part of me. So that identity crisis cracked open this empath, but it also cracked open all the wounds from my childhood that never I didn't even have any conscious memory of, which started my path to discovering who I want to understand me. I want to understand who I was. Now, as I was getting out of the military just loaded me up on pharmaceuticals, and I was doing just a ton of talk therapy. But the way that works is they just solidify understandings or identifying broken parts of you. So here I am, I'm numbed out and I feel like a shell of myself on all these medications. I was on about 16 at one time. And I was just being told that I'm broken. I have panic disorder, I have bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, all these different diagnoses. So as I went through that process, I was seeing other people around me like getting sick, getting addicted to drugs and alcohol, even dying. And I was like, I cannot be a statistic here. I'm going to do something different. So I took it upon myself at one point. I just stopped all the medication. I was in a bit of a desperate state. And I just started working out and training and also started taking testosterone. Within days, I literally started to feel like me again. So I was quietly just in my zone, doing my own thing. Give it 6 months later, now I'm out of the military, and I decided that I wanted to go to college. I want to go to school to learn psychology, to understand my own mind and what is going on as I'm shifting into this new chapter of my life. So I went to school, and as I was learning psychology, it helped a little bit, but I still felt like something was missing. I felt like it wasn't really giving me the understanding of who I was like I had anticipated. So I shifted my direction. Now, at this time, I was competing heavily in bodybuilding and I was doing really well in their area. So I found an opportunity to go to massage school. So I moved back to Las Vegas. I started going to massage school over there. And right around the same time that I was going to massage school, I found ayahuasca. And the first time that I drank ayahuasca was the first time in my life I ever felt the frequency of love. Now, before that, everything that I thought was love, now it wasn't. So it made me question the very fabric of my reality and understanding of who I was. Between that and in massage school, you're basically getting massages every single day and you're learning how to essentially meditate. Now, up until that point in my life, I had never meditated. I didn't even understand what any of this stuff meant. So I had built up a lot of armor, if you will, in my body. And every day we would do what's called getting into our beingness, slowing ourselves down, getting present. After about 2 months of doing that every single day, I started getting this crazy pains behind my right eye. It was a shoot from the back of my head to the back of my right eye. And one day I got so bad, I was literally going to bash my head against the wall to just knock myself out to make it stop. Like nothing would make it stop. So my partner that day, he asked me if he could work on me. I was like, yeah, sure. And that was when he put his hands on the back of my head and it's like I shot out of my body. I couldn't tell if I was having a seizure or if I was having a near-death experience or if I was just having a flashback from the acid I took when I was 17. I'm going through this process where apparently my body is flopping around like a fish. I'm crying. I'm making guttural sounds out of my mouth. This is in front of 27 people in class, by the way, and it went on for about 2 hours.
Oh
At the
my
end of that
God.
time, yeah, at the end of that time, it was like I'll flop around for 10 minutes, then drop, then flop around again, and so on and so forth. So at the end of that, I felt like I got hit by a truck. I was exhausted, and I was like, "Do I have to go to the hospital? Is there something wrong with me? What the hell's going on?" And the instructor actually just looked at me and smiled, and he started addressing the class. This is the most intense SER I've ever seen in my life. Do you know what a SER is?
I don't. What's an SER?
But SER is a somato-emotional release. It's fascial unwinding, right? So
Mhm.
what I came to learn is that I had been in fight or flight so deep for so long, right? And I built up all this muscle as I was competing a lot, whatnot, that when I finally slowed myself down and started activating my parasympathetic nervous system, my fascia finally had a chance to release. So this seizure-ish like experience was actually my body releasing all this tension and all this sympathetic dominance. And after that experience, It was about 2 months later when I found ayahuasca, but it shifted my vibration to the point where I didn't want to eat the same foods anymore. I didn't even want to lift weights anymore. I actually stopped lifting weights for 3 years. I broke up with my girlfriend. I didn't want to talk to the same people. Everything completely changed. And I just started doing body work. So as I started to accrue clients, I found that I was really good at this, right? And then something else started to happen. The evolution continued to go, and I started getting these visual imprints of these things happening in my mind. Now I just played it off like it was nothing, right? Like my mind's just being creative or whatnot. But it kept getting stronger and stronger. So there was this one time I was working on this female client. We worked together for about 6 times. And I was working on her lower back. I'll never forget this. And as I was working on her lower back, I kept seeing this vision of a little girl getting into a car accident. And it was like looping in my mind. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and ask her. And maybe she's going to think I'm nuts, whatever. I don't care. So, hey, I was just curious. Hey, were you ever in an accident when you were a kid? And she looked up at me and she was like blown away. She was like, how the hell did you know that? I was literally just reliving this car accident when I was 8 years old and my mom died. And that just blew my mind. I was like, okay, this means something. What does this mean? So I started investigating this side of my consciousness, this side of who I was, and I started to realize that this is how spirit speaks to me. And I have very intuitive healing hands. So I learned over time as I started getting much more experience and even doing other things like working with plant medicine while doing body work and all these things, I was able to extract trapped emotional trauma out of people's bodies. And so that was really my training for, I'd say, about 6 years straight. And then I started adding other components. I reintroduced fitness and nutrition, now diagnostics. I started doing microscopy and adding in even the astrology and different archetypal patterns of behavior to where I've created a full 360-degree process of helping people understand the physical and corresponding emotional imbalances that are trapped in their body, and then structuring process on how to help people to get out of these imbalanced behavior patterns. And that kind of leads me to here and now.
That is definitely quite the journey.
It's
I'm
been
really,
wild.
yeah. And I imagine that it's going to continue to unwind as you continue to do this work.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's just so much still out there that we don't even know about, right? Like, and
You're not kidding.
just continue to expand more and more. So I love your openness and your courage in terms of like leaning into some of these things that are a little bit fringe and that other people may not have had the courage to do, which I think really speaks to you as a human and somebody who's willing to take chances.
When I was younger, growing up, I was terrified. I was a scared little kid. I had a stutter. It was so bad. And I didn't know how to be social. I didn't know how to be me.
Mm.
So my entire life has really been focused on facing my fears. And of course, joining EOD, being a bomb disposal technician, that's about the most extreme fear that I think anybody can step up against. So I remember my very first mission I ran in Iraq, where the call came down, said that a terrorist had bomb making material, and we need to go investigate, then grab it, take it, and blow it up. When I actually got there and I pulled all this stuff out, it was actually a full up IED. And when I had that in my hand, right, during school, like I was a master. I was all over everything. But when it actually came to where, okay, if somebody calls this phone, I'm gonna be a pink mist. And
Mhm.
something about that experience, it paralyzed me. I was
Sure.
terrified.
Yeah, you probably went in a freeze.
Yeah, so I froze and I didn't expect myself to do that. So because I reacted in a way that I didn't understand, that planted a seed of massive doubt in my mind because I didn't know I even had that fear in me. And really for the rest of that year was all about me confronting my fear of death. And since then, I've made it a an intention and a fundamental direction to learn how to master my fear and understand what it's trying to teach me. So now I've gone to a point where I use my fear as a compass. Whereas before, the fear would be what was guiding me. Now I learn how to navigate situations through it in I'd say, a raw, a pure way. Does that make sense?
It does. What I'm thinking about as you're saying this is fear is so powerful. And what I always say to folks in terms of the work that I do around nervous system work is that like our nervous system, our brain has one job, and that is to keep us alive. And
Right.
it does that through creating the sensation of fear in our body. And
Yeah.
when our nervous system perceives a threat, it will throw us into a protected state. And that might be fight or flight, but it also might be freeze, it might be fawn, it might be appease, all of those things. And we have,
Right.
as you mentioned, no control over it. It just, our nervous
Yeah.
system just takes over. And it's,
It's over.
look, you can't run from this, you can't beat it up. So we're just going to freeze and hope it goes away. And
Yeah.
what you explained, so many people have had that experience, whether it's been when they've been faced with an assault or
Mm,
whether it's a physical assault or a sexual assault, like why didn't I fight back? Why did I just stand there? And
yeah.
there's so much shame that
Yeah.
gets activated through that
Shame and
experience.
guilt.
Yeah. And doubt and all of the things that you're describing. And so what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say is that you took that experience and intentionally decided to work with it,
Yeah.
knowing we can't get rid of fear. We can't live on this earth without fear. We need it. In fact, there are some people who are born without it and they don't live very long because they don't know not to walk into a street. And what happens is they walk in front of cars, not because they want to die, but because they just don't, there's nothing stopping
They're
them from
not even attuned to any kind of possible risk.
risk. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this idea of working with your fear,
Mhm.
it's trying to push it away or ignore it or work against it. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, as I'm looking at your background, for those of you who are listening to this, it says biohack yourself.
Yep.
In the background, is when you talk about biohacking, is that part of the program?
Yeah. It is all surrounded around optimizing your nervous system. So when we voluntarily go into uncomfortable things, and this could be in a wide variety of different ways, but when we voluntarily go into it, then when things happen in life, we're prepared for it, right? So I see it as like training. So you stay ready for everything and anything. And if something is super uncomfortable and you feel like you can't do it, that's all the more reason to do it. Right? Not only that, but it builds confidence. It aligns all the different systems of your body, your circadian rhythm, right? Your endocrine system. Cold plunges have shown to increase dopamine by 3 to 500%, and also increase testosterone levels. And so you want that optimization, that balance. And we live in a very unbalanced world, especially right now.
Yeah.
There's so much chaos. There's so much uncertainty and unknown, and there's a lot of psyops that are going on out there right now that are that are specifically attacking and triggering our central nervous systems. When we are able to do this work and face those fears and learn how to understand the language that is trying to teach us, then we start to become aware and we wake up and we see all this stuff that's going on. And then we can choose what directions we want to go, or we can choose whether or not to participate in these things. And this is also really what kind of highlights, in my personal opinion, when you do this kind of work, it makes your purpose clear in life because it also makes you fully present. When you have to do something uncomfortable, you have to connect internally. And when you connect internally, you can feel all the things that are off. And when you feel those things that are off, it's a constant oscillation and learning process, trying to find that right point. I know for me, I never felt that right point until I drank ayahuasca, and that was why it had such a profound effect on me. Now, it's also important to consider what you do after you find that point, because that point, what I consider like divine alignment, it can be fleeting. You feel it momentarily. Oh, what was that? That's what I've been looking for. Now, how are you going to continue Are you going to be a perfectionist and do whatever you can and get addicted to trying to stay in that point? That is what I would call addiction. It's learning how to let it be okay that you're not there while also being aware of the nuances of where and how in your proprioception to your environment and everything that's going on, all the sensory inputs, and learn and teach yourself, okay, if I have a difficult conversation with someone, I have to sit there and do 10 deep breaths. You create processes for yourself to mitigate any kind of imbalances because we're always going to be challenged by things in life, right? So when we can, first it starts with experimentation. You have to experiment and try these things out because they don't teach you this kind of stuff in school. Most parents don't know how to teach this stuff to their kids, right? So just like financial literacy, most people out there don't understand finances and how finances are also connected to your central nervous system and to your emotional beingness. So when we can connect the dots to all these things, we realize this is probably the most important thing that one can do in their life is really test the thresholds of different sensations and different emotions and different states of being. And the more that you do that, the more you connect to it, you might find one thing and that becomes your purpose, right? So I personally feel like biohacking is the new health industry. It's going to replace, like over time, I think, most of Western medicine. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place like you need doctors for surgeries. Sometimes people need medications, but I would say it's probably more 10 to 20% of the time compared to how much people are being pushed to use that stuff right now.
Yeah, there's so many layers to what you're saying, so I'll back into it.
Yeah.
So starting with what you're suggesting in terms of, and I want to hear a little bit more about biohacking being like the next wave of medicine and this idea. And I do think that we are coming to understand the nervous system more and more, and the nervous system and the
Yeah.
brain's role in chronic illness and chronic pain. A lot of the work that I do now is in neuroplastic pain, neuroplastic symptoms, which has to do with the brain and the nervous system creating pain and symptoms versus there being a structural issue in the body, where so many
Ah,
people
okay.
are taking medications, getting invasive surgeries to try and fix things that aren't necessarily what's causing the pain or the symptoms. So that's a
Yeah.
whole other conversation that we can probably have, but it's along the same lines of what you're saying, which I think comes back to this idea that we as human beings have to start turning inward and getting to
Yeah.
know and understand ourselves and our bodies and what it means to be in a body rather than
Yep.
looking outside of ourselves for the fix. And that
100%.
discomfort is a part of life. And the more that we lean into it, the more that we learn how to widen our window of tolerance in order to be in it and that grow without stretching, without a little bit of
Absolutely.
discomfort. And on the heels of everybody gets a trophy, we're like, we don't want anybody
Yeah.
to be uncomfortable.
Oh,
Um,
man.
yeah, we're really seeing the impact of that. And
Huge.
there's also the other, just on the other side of the spectrum. And so this was the other part I was thinking about as I was listening to you in terms of your history, your personal history. And it sounds like your childhood was rife with a lot of internal danger, like not having a sense of security or a sense of safety. You were on the street, you were in foster care. It sounds like
Yeah.
you probably didn't have secure attachment. And so all of these things
No.
that we learn, supposed to be learning as children through our relationship with a secure, safe adult, you didn't have.
No.
And so you went out into the world and were basically like facing this big scary world without any resources.
Yeah. As I've grown and as I've learned, and I will say that, first of all, my relationship with my mother and my father is incredible at this time in my life. We were able to really, as we grew, we all did the work individually and we would come together. And in fact, there was one particular time in 2022, I went home for 3 weeks. I was going through a lot of change. Me and my girlfriend just broke up. It was a time where I felt like I needed to go back to my roots and really just clear some stuff up. So I went home and me and my dad, like, as he's gotten older, you can just feel and see like the weight of decisions that he's not proud of in his body. And he's very stiff. So I was like, hey, Dad, why don't you let me do a body work session on you? Now, mind you, this man had never had anything like this done in his life. He doesn't like being touched. He was a police officer for 35 years, and
Mm.
he had surgery on his lower back when he was younger, herniated disc. But at this time, I have my vibroacoustic sound lounge, which helps the body relax quite a bit quicker. And he was like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So one day I laid him down. I worked on it for probably about 3 hours. All right. Towards the end of the session, he was finally opening up and everything was breaking free. I did this special hip stretch that I do that really helps to just open up the hip all the way to the spine. As soon as I brought his leg up, I heard his spine go brrrah, and it just cracked open, literally, I think his entire spine.
Oh my gosh.
It just released something so deep. And after I put his leg down, he looked up at the sky and then he looked at me. He started crying. Now, I have never seen this man cry in my entire life. And he stood up and he had this look of like childlike wonderment in his eyes. And he was looking at me like I was a superhero. He's like, you did it. You just, whatever you did, you made it specifically for me. It's like, you made it. You figured out. And I didn't really understand what he meant at first. He was crying. We gave each other a big hug. I love you, Dad. My mom was there. She was crying too. My brother was there. And so everybody got to see this beautiful moment that me and my dad had never had. When we had that experience, it's like a weight lifted off of my soul. And what I realized later on, while after that experience, was that I, even with all the bad stuff that happened when we were kids and all the things that I'd gone through in my life, I had the strength of love in my heart
Mm.
to be able to come to him, even with all the bumping heads all our lives, and still lovingly accept him and help and support him in a way that he had never been support or helped. Not, he was just carrying his stuff from his father and his father's
Yeah.
father. So he finally saw me as, I guess you could say, the generational curse breaker.
Yeah.
And I didn't really fully comprehend the weight of that at that time, but that experience changed his life. I changed my life too, but he like changed his habits and he started for most of his adult life, he would work 100 hours a week, no joke. He just nonstop working basically to avoid talking, to avoid life. And he started to actually engage with my mom. He started to slow down and let himself just chill and finally just be more at peace. That seeing that transformation in him and being a part of that was one is I'd say is one of the highlights of my life. So even like I'm also a firm believer, right? As a soul, we choose our parents before we come into this life. We choose the experiences we're going to have to learn these certain lessons. So when I take a step back and I look at it from that context, I have nothing but gratitude in my heart for everything that I've went through. Because once you finally get the clarity, it's made me the man I am today, and I'm very proud of the man that I become.
That is such a beautiful story. And what a gift that you were able to have that experience with your father for both
Yeah.
you and him and generations to come and
Yeah.
generations that have all come before you. It's like
Right?
it goes both ways. That's just
Huge.
really so huge, so amazing.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about here, but I want to hear more about your book. So tell us about the book that you have two, right?
I have
That
two books. Yep.
yeah. Can you tell us about both of them?
Sure. The first one is really my autobiography. It's The Indigo Flame. Where I got that name from, because a lot of people are like, why? What does that mean? Are you familiar with the Indigo Soul or Indigo Child?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So during my fourth Iboga flood dose, Iboga is another plant medicine that comes from Africa. It's about a 20 to 30 hour long journey. It's really like a near-death experience where you do like have a highlight reel over your whole life. You see all the decisions you made, what's going on. For me, this particular journey, I left my body and I became an indigo flame. And I'm zipping around the universe and I'm seeing how we reincarnate. I'm seeing how our souls decide what we're going to do. I see after we die how we process the final versions of ourselves. And it's the Truman Show. After you have completed this this dimension or this level of existence, your soul lives on, and it's all laid out. Now you see all the kind of all the answers to the final exam, right? And then once you see it, just everything makes sense. Oh my God, okay. Now I got to go back down there and learn this. But you're able to just be there in the presence of eternal space for as long as you want. And I remember just feeling weightless, feeling free, feeling just complete, pure love and bliss. And there were millions of other lights that were in the cosmos. And every now and then, like you'd see a couple of them zipping down to Earth. And so that's when I fully realized and understood I'm an empath and I have an indigo soul. So I'm a part of this collective chosen souls that chose to come out here to experience, yes, a lot of hardship, but there's a period, and I believe actually collectively that we are in this threshold right now where we're shifting from karma to dharma. Do you know the difference? Okay, just in
Can you
case anybody doesn't
yeah,
understand,
a little bit more?
karma is essentially paying off debt to learn a lesson, right? There's it's earth school. It's these soul level initiation tests to make sure that your vibration, your heart is open, your vibration is at a place where, okay, now I can take full responsibility for being more of a driver within humanity to support and help people grow and become better, right? So when we shift into Dharma, Dharma is fully living our purpose. So it's no more having to learn or pay back. You learn the lessons you need to learn. Now you fully embody it vibrationally. So now you are in a place where your soul is ready to move forward and evolve past all the things that you had to learn from. So you're really stepping into the full, 100% full intentional life purpose for this period of being in this particular life.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I know I've been feeling a major shift here, I'd say for the last like year or so. I'm sure a lot of your viewers have been as well. And this brings it back to the central nervous system. Because as we grow, it's pulling all this stuff out of us, right? And so sometimes when it gets too uncomfortable, people can be drawn to distraction, drawn to escapism, drawn to numbing things out, right? Drawn to hibernating or isolating. We have to be very careful about that. And the way that we face these potential distractions that will keep us from our Dharma, right, is by doing these biohacks and doing these things that retrain our central nervous system. And I believe there are technologies that are coming out that are just fascinating, right? But at the very core of the future of medicine, what I personally believe is frequency and vibration. Tesla said it, Albert Einstein said it, all the great minds knew that when you come back to focusing on going right to frequency and vibration, is everything at its core is that, right? Which is why plant medicine is so powerful because plant medicine essentially hypersensitizes your body to frequency and vibration. So you're able to utilize sounds and techniques to be able to align your frequency. And when you do, it heals the physical and emotional simultaneously. So now you have the awareness, the epiphany, you connect the dots. Okay, I got it. Now the trick is, because you can't live in that place,
Right.
now, when you come back and your vibration is shifted, now it's your responsibility to take action on making the changes that you need to make because there was some part of you that was out of balance before that experience, right? Because we're a vibrational match to it. Now that we're not a vibrational match, you have to go back out into your life and maybe make some very uncomfortable decisions, right? Now you see and learn the lesson that had to learn from your significant other. Or maybe now you see how you've been holding yourself back by staying in this job for some kind of safety or security where you have a bigger purpose in this, right? So you have to structure and strategize and have confidence and faith in yourself that you can do this. And that all comes back to facing your fears.
Yeah. Yeah. The integration is so important.
Integration is everything.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot. We can have these spiritual experiences from A to Z, but if we aren't
Right.
doing the integration, it just becomes an experience that sits on a shelf somewhere.
And it becomes a roller coaster of life.
That is very true. That
And
is
we
very,
don't need any more roller coasters.
we
We're
do not.
good.
We have
No.
plenty.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So we do have to wrap up, and there's so much more I want to talk to you about. So two things. One, are you willing to come back?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
This is a very smooth and great conversation.
Okay, good. Because I still have lots to ask you. And then
Okay.
the second is before we close up, just so that we can get it out there, tell us about your other book.
Yeah, so the other book is The Biohacker's Guide to Spiritual Bodybuilding. So this is my philosophy behind the scenes. I consider it metaphysical bodybuilding. So we have different bodies, right? We have an emotional body, an astral body, an etheric body, a physical body. So understanding how our behavior patterns and habits, things that we're drawn to, what they indicate spiritually and emotionally behind the scenes, and then how to identify where we're being drawn and what the lesson is, what the spiritual lesson is behind it, so that we can go through our fitness journey and test the thresholds of ourselves in a healthy way, as opposed to having to learn some difficult lessons and through hurting ourselves, because you have residual trauma in there, then you're a vibrational match to the imbalance. So you're probably going to be drawn to taking too many stimulants or taking too many performance enhancing drugs or training too much and not recovering, right? All these things have a message for you. And again, it comes down to calibration of your central nervous system. So the Indigo Flame is my autobiography, and it goes more into the spiritual experiences I've had and lessons and relationships and life and career and whatnot. The Biohacker's Guide to Spiritual Bodybuilding is specifically focused on fitness and understanding how to optimize the mind and the body through testing the thresholds of said fitness.
Beautiful. Excellent. So I am going to put links to all of those as well as your website in the show
Awesome.
notes so people can access them easily. And then
Appreciate that.
you and I will hop off and set a date for our follow-up.
Let's
And
get it.
yeah, what I'd like to invite listeners to do, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure how this is going to play out in terms of what gets released when, but if anyone has any specific questions after listening to this, we can follow up in our next one.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
let's do a Q&A.
Cool. Okay.